Yeah, okay. That's clear. Thank you for this. And by the way, let me tell that as you have introduced already, though there is no need, but still I would say that this is Dr. Ahmed. And I'm from Multan, the historic city of Pakistan, and I represent a university which is very newly established university just 6 months ago, and I'm working here as professor of English. Very warm welcome and very good day to all the people who are managing, hosting, and if I can pronounce it rightly, this is Miss Kyla. If I pronounce rightly, if the pronunciation is wrong, please forgive me. And the chairperson of this meeting as well, Sayyida Huma Batul, if she's present. So very good day to all of you people. My topic, can I put my video on as well?
Sorry?
Can I put the video on as well? Is it okay?
Yes, why not? Yes.
Okay, that's fine. That's fine. Thank you. So the topic is going to be mobility, displacement, and sense of belonging. And I would start it with the idea that wherever mobility is there because of any reasons, we shall be tracing different reasons with the passage of time, displacement would definitely occur, and that would result into some type of loss, and mostly this loss is going to be in the sense of belonging to some space or people or nation or a country. And here we shall be trying to find out how this loss happens and what are the consequences of this loss. My major contention will be that this loss, when it happens, at that time, a certain distractedness occurs in the mind of the migrant and the writers of post-colonial literature, especially post 9/11 writers, have been responding to this activity as well. So let's go and find how does it happen. First of all, I shall be highlighting some of the concepts related to mobility. Later on, I will come to Homi K. Bhabha, whose theory, we can say, underpinning is here, and ultimately some examples from the text of the writers I have chosen. By the way, I have just delimited myself to the two writers only. One is Mohsen Hamid from Pakistan, and another is Kamila Shamsie. She is also a Pakistani-born writer, and we shall be talking with reference to that. So, the very first thing is to know about some of the concepts like if mobility is there, it will happen only because certain people have the capacity to move. They can move inside as well as outside, but the movement will definitely result in some kind of displacement. They may be placed as well in a new home, as we call that. They have deterritorialized themselves, and with the passage of time they would be able to reterritorialize. So placement and displacement both will continue to happen, and this can be internally as well and externally as well. But the major issue that occurs because of this is the loss of home. That means homelessness occurs there, and the people want to go for search of their new home. Mobility can be understood in many ways. It's a potential of movement. It's a type of ability of us people to move from one place to the other, and means of transportation actually become the instrument of this mobility. And mobility can be understood with reference to many activities of human being, like somebody is going from one place to the other for the sake of trade, for the sake of consumption, for the sake of working, for the sake of living. That all will involve some type of mobility. So mobility is the concern of the spatial separation of activities, and it demands definitely transportation. We have need of mobility in many ways. We are required to move on, and at certain moment, political process also involves into that. So, in fact, simply we can say mobility is the movement. But how does it become important when it comes in our lives? Because, for example, mostly we see that people are moving from one to one, but sometimes they may be migrating, they may be an exodus, or they may be evicted from one place to the other. They may be banished. They may be traveling simply, or they may be going for the sake of certain discoveries. Whatever the case may be, displacement would definitely occur. And sometimes this displacement also happens that if somebody is in the imprisonment and is trying to escape from the imprisonment, at that time also there will be displacement. But whatever the case may be, all these things will cause displacement, and ultimately a sense of loss will grow in the mind of the person who is displaced. And so alienation will occur, and disorientation of the mind, or that of distractedness, would also occur. And in that way, displacement, the second stage of mobility, would definitely play a role in that. And if we continue to go further, we reach to the level of homelessness. Homelessness means that some people may be having insufficient place or inadequate place to live. At that time also homelessness would be there. But then sometimes you find and see the people residing in the streets, sleeping in the streets. That would also be a type of literal homelessness. And sometimes overcrowdedness of the homes is there. And interestingly enough, in such places also, sense of homelessness comes there. Sometimes there is a continuous sporadic activity because of which also homelessness would occur. And therefore, mobility and displacement will result into some kind of homelessness. So in that way, three things are joined together in order to create the sense of belonging, loss of sense of belonging. So what is that sense of belonging? It is basically sense of possession or sense of being possessed. I mean to say that one person may be thinking that he belongs to one party, one nation, one country, and in reverse, that nation and country would also be saying, okay, it is possible that you belong to us. And this thing has been defined very clearly by Holmes, who says, to gain possession, a man must stand in certain physical relation to the object and to the rest of the world. It means that we may have some relationship, physical relationship with the place or the space or the people, if we want to say that we belong to this place. In the absence of this relationship, the belonging disappears. And so mobility, displacement, and homelessness, they all join hands together in order to create a sense of loss of belonging to the place, to the people, and to the nation about which the migrant is belonging to. Bakhtin and Lukacs are also very relevant here that they should be talked about. For example, Bakhtin says that when you are writing a novel, at that time also homelessness occurs because you transcend yourself from the real world into the fictional world. That is the type of mental homelessness that occurs. And same is the case with Lukacs, who talks about linguistic homelessness. That means a language which you are using normally that may not be the language of the fiction which you are using. So you are transporting yourself from this physical language, which is common people's language, into the language which may be different from. So in a way, linguistic homelessness also occurs. All these things we may be seeing in the next coming textual evidences. So Bakhtin and Lukacs also support the idea that if these things happen in any way, in one way or the other, there is the sense of loss of belonging because of the transportation, because of the change in your circumstances. Now let's see what Bhabha says about that. According to Bhabha, a migrant definitely undergoes a disoriented state of mind, a distracted state of mind, which happens, and after that, the migrant fails to create a type of loyalty to the situation in which he is existing, because he partially belongs to one situation, partially belongs to the other situation, and as a result, he is not feeling okay and comfortable with the situation he's finding himself. He divides his concept into two ways. One is migrancy, other is re-migrancy. And migrancy, definitely, we move from one place to the other. Like if somebody moves from Pakistan to Baku, that may be a type of migrancy. But if from Baku one has to come back by force or by maybe willing intention also, but mostly with force, that may be called anti-migrancy or re-migrancy. In both cases, one thing is definitely to occur, and that is the hybridization, on which Bhabha puts maximum of his influence or interpretations. According to him, when such a thing happens, clarity loses its point of view in the mind of the migrant. Confusion occurs there, and it is only because of the loss of belonging, as we have discussed in the last slides, that belonging loss occurs, sense of loss of belonging occurs, and as a result, distractedness and confusion and many other things occur in the mind of the migrant, and therefore his comfort level decreases to the minimum, and he goes to find out more ways and means in order to make himself comfortable. So in that way, this thing that we are calling here mobility, that we are calling displacement, that we are calling homelessness, all these things, according to Bhabha, create a mind which is a disoriented mind. And that happens, and how it happens, how the fiction, post 9/11 fiction has responded to it. Let us go into that and find out how does it do that. For example, here, I have taken one passage from Mohsen Hamid's text, The Reluctant Fundamentalist. If we just come across 4 to 5 lines, we will be able to see that Hamid claims to belong to Pakistan, and that Pakistan, which was a formerly colonized Pakistan. So he was able to speak English language very well with a very good accent, that is anglicized accent. And he says that he was at an advantage in America because he could speak English very well. So this is something with which he shows his belongingness to Pakistan and the place from where he's come and the English which he can speak. So in that way he feels comfortable. But the very next moment in the next slide, for example, if you say the first sentence says, I felt home, but he in the third sentence says, I longed for the settled nature of my past. Perhaps it was because I missed my family and the comfort of a family residence. So in that way, very soon, even after finding a comfort corner in USA, he begins to feel the loss of his family, the loss of his residence, the loss of his comfort in Pakistan. And when he comes back after 9/11, he comes back to Pakistan, though he finds it everything that he's comfortable living with his people, but very soon he begins to miss America, begins to feel sad for the loss of America, which in his word, it has happened. So in that way, he is neither feeling himself 100% belonging to Pakistan and nor he is feeling 100% belonging to USA. A distractedness is present in his mind, confusion is present in his mind. He is unable to make a clear-cut decision to which place he belongs, and this is what is called distractedness according to Bhabha, or disorientedness, to use his exact words. The next novel that I have chosen for this purpose is Exit West by, once again, Hamid. The very first, passage is here. One dot says that refugees had occupied many of the open places in city, pitching tents in the green belts between roads, erecting lean-tos next to boundary walls of houses, sleeping rough on sidewalks. When I discuss with you people the homelessness, the situation of homelessness, this is quite visible in this passage, that people are not under a shelter. Rather, they are on the pathways, on the roads, on the lintels, and many other places. So homelessness has occurred because of the migrancy, which has taken place in case of Nadia and Said in this novel. And this migrancy continues and homelessness continues. And very soon, these two people, Nadia and Said, would be trying to find out rather, some type of people who may be just like them, they may be appearing like them, they would try to find them. So in a place where home is not there, they are trying to find home in a way, let's say. And then in the very next passage, we see that their effort fails and they find themselves part of a community which is neither with respect to the color belonging to Pakistan nor to any European country. Rather, it's an amalgamation, and that is why it is called in the second line and the first line that these people appear to be brown. They range from dark chocolate to milky tea. So that is the mixing of two, colors and races, and ultimately a kind of new mixture which is being called here as the milky tea. So in this way, mobility and migration has caused them to feel neither purely Pakistanis nor purely the people among which they are. And same is the case with the language, which is termed here in the fourth line as cacophony. That means it's not the language, one pure language, to which one can say that I belong to that language. Here also sense of belonging, loss of belonging occurs when nobody is able to understand each other's language, and they invent rather a type of language which can be understood by each and every member of the group. So in that way also, the purity of the language, the belongingness of the language has failed, and a new language has occurred, which is not belonging to a person, or a person cannot say that I belong to this language. The same thing continues with the passage of time in further passages. As for example, it's being called here in these passages that the migrants are there, but they do not feel themselves to be the people residing at one place. They say that they are migrants, they are foreigners, they are unable to claim any status for themselves, they are out of their home, and in the new home, they are unable to re-territorialize with the passage of time. They still need to make more searches for this purpose. And as a result, in the second passage, the writer says that the whole global north is moving to the whole, southern part of the globe is moving to the northern part. In that way, movement is occurring, mobility is occurring, but it's causing sense of loss of belonging and homelessness as well. Similarly, if we proceed further, we can see not the whole passage I'm going to read to save time, but I would say to just look at the last line where the couple, which is the protagonist couple, Nadia and Said, they meet at the end of the story, and they just have a cup of coffee, and ultimately they say, where we are going? They leave each other, and the writer comments that if the evening would ever come, so that is the conveying the feeling of the sense of loss of that belongingness, that both of these two people even do not belong to each other at the end of the story. And so that way, loss of belongingness occurs in this story as well. And next comes the story from Kamila Shamsie's Kartography. Very briefly speaking, Maheen is the protagonist in the story who marries Zafar, and she belongs to a country which was formerly Eastern Pakistan, but now it's called Bangladesh. She belongs to that place, and she lives in Karachi. She is trying to adjust herself in Karachi, but again and again, the whole environment, the kind of mental psychology, and the belongingness to Bangladesh causes her to feel for her country as well. So she is neither feeling herself to be purely Pakistani and not she is feeling to be the Bangladeshi. So in that way, there is this sense of loss of belonging occurring in this character as well in the novel Kartography by Shamsie. And the last novel that I have chosen for discussing my purpose here, it says Shamsie's Home Fire. In Shamsie's Home Fire, we have two women characters. One is Isma, other is Anika. And unfortunately, this novel is suffering from the problem which has been highlighted by most of the writers because of Islamic phobic feelings and because of racialism as well. That these characters, even after living for days and days and hundreds of days and years, they are unable to feel at home, even if they are English born. For example, Isma in this passage, we see that when she was to fly to USA at that time, she comes on the airport and she is interviewed in such a hard and harsh way that the people even search her. For example, in fourth line, we say that these people are looking at the family pictures, the books, and the other things, whatever she is possessing, and asking her to stay. She cannot go. So they doubt her identity when she introduces herself that she's a Londoner. She is English because she's born there, but the people are not ready to accept that. They say you need to stay and prove yourself that you belong to that place. And instead of asking the question about her being English, they ask her the questions about her past. So that is the type of confused belongingness now, that she lives in London and she has been born there and she has got all qualities which the possible citizen of London might be having, but still she is questioned about her past. It means the past is with her. And that belongingness partially exists there, and the new belonging is not ready to accept her. Not only Isma, but also the other people in the story. For example, the father of Pervez has become terrorist and he's dead. In the story, we are told. But the son, who is Pervez, he also, flies to Middle East and there he performs his activities. What are these? These activities are not the debate here. The debate is that a person who's born in England, that person loses the citizenship of England as soon as he's declared to be a terrorist, as soon as he's declared to be a new Oriental, as soon as he's found to be the person who does not match with the benefits or the kind of indicators which are necessary and surely required in order to maintain one's identity or belongingness. So that person too has double belongingness. If he goes to one side, he loses the other side. And that is the sense of loss of belongingness that ultimately can result into many psychological issues as well. And similarly, in the next slide, we will be able to see that that person is killed there in Istanbul, near the embassy that is killed, and his sister, Anika, goes to Pakistan in order to bring his dead body back. And even her relatives refuse to say and claim and accept that they belong to her or she belongs to them. They say that their sisters, are going to migrate to USA, so they cannot have any type of relationship with her. They say that they have been negating their connection with Chomsky, for example, with other things. They have been trying to say that they love America, they are faithful with the Americans, and that is why they are unable to support Anika when she has come to take the dead body of her brother from Pakistan to England. But her dead body of her brother is not allowed to go there. That is sent back to Pakistan. And whatever Anika may say, she's never allowed to do so. As for example, she on the microphone talks to the Home Secretary and tells that she accepts that everything has been done, but she belongs to England, and so she would like to take the dead body of her brother back to England. But the justice demand is refused to her, and ultimately the blast occurs there, and her brother and she herself is killed in Pakistan. So here again, Anika and Pervez, the two citizens who belong to England, they are unable to have their Englishness with them or claim their Englishness because of circumstances which are developing around them. They are Pakistani diaspora, but they neither have the sense of belonging to Pakistan nor they have the sense of belonging to England. So in this way, the distracted mind is there, and that distracted mind causes a number of issues for the people, for the person himself, and for nation and country, as the writer has very deliberately and openly shown in the text of The Home Fire. So that was all from me that I wanted to talk to the people here. I hope that we can conclude by saying that mobility in any shape results in the homelessness, and that homelessness again causes a migrant to undergo distraction, and under his distraction or her distraction, that migrant fails to find himself a comfortable human being in order to perform as good as possible, and he makes mistakes, creates problems, and for him also lots of problems are there, as we can see in these texts as well. So in that way, we reach to the final thing that migrancy can cause such issues. So thank you very much for listening to me. That's it from my side.
Thank you very much. You had great speech, full of great information. Thank you very much. And our participant, would you like to ask any questions or do you have any comments? Yes?
Yes, sir, I would agree with you, because some people end up feeling alone and isolated in the end. They actually leave their countries to get a job and to improve themselves, but in the end, they just feel alone and isolated because their loved one, the people who they support, they're not with them. So in the end, it's of no use.
Thank you.
Thank you for the comment. So I may be disappearing now. Thank you.
Sorry?
I mean, I will be listening to the other people's speeches now, and I'm closing my video and my audio.
Yes,
right?
please, you can close. Yes, you can.
Thank you so much.
Thank you. Welcome. Thank you. And if you don't have any comments or questions, we can go to the next presenter. As I see Huma Batul here, Dr. Huma Batul is here. We have just Huma Batul, Momina Iftikhar, Cheryl Nadine, Bisma Tariq, and they are joining our conference from Air University of Pakistan, and their research title is COVID-19 and Poetry, a content analysis of selected poems. Yes, you are welcome. You can share your presentation document and you can start.